Hi everybody, welcome back to the Travel Savage Diaries. Today I just want to make a quick video on how I recognize the signs that come from the divine, from God. Whether you believe in Buddha, Allah, whoever God is for you or however you see it, and how I distinguish that from the ancestors, because I had a very funny moment today, and I know some of you are wanting to travel and want to also expand your seeing gifts and how to connect with the universe. And something that I've noticed that would happen before when folks are developing their clairs or learning how to walk with God and their ancestors is they were easily caught up in either hardship, or they thought that they saw signs and synchronicities, and so they would go in one direction or hang out with this one person, not realizing that they were desperate for the signs, and that it could just be you foretelling the future and seeing something and you think it's a synchronicity. So just to talk on that, before you start like traveling around, manifesting, doing your scripting, I always recommend people work on receiving energy and receiving their messages from the divine, which means enhancing your ability to meditate, enhancing your ability to communicate with the ethereal. And what that really entails is you making the conscious effort every single day to lengthen your spiritual practices and to surrender to your path. So the way someone explained it to me was, prayer is your way to speak to God and meditation is your way to listen. So if you're someone who doesn't like meditation, not only is it going to be hard for you to receive messages from the divine, but it's also going to be hard to receive messages from your ancestors or use the rest of your clairs and your gift of seeing or mediumship or being psychic to know when to take action. And so today I'll give you an example of what that really looked like. So I use my seeing gift all the time. I've had a very close relationship with God since I was little, and my ancestors as well. And I was in meditation and, receiving messages that today was just a very special day. And sometimes that happened. And so I knew that I needed to be more aware than usual. But again, I practice meditation. I usually am in silence a lot. Aside from working, like I'm talking to God and helping my clients and things like that. So there's not a lot of distractions in my life. And so I felt a strong calling to a certain place of town. And, in the previous video, some of my previous videos, like where I talk about Mexico City and meeting those ancestors in modern day Mexico, which was Tenochtitlan before, where some of my ancestors were, I was called to a very important place, which was connected to my tattoo. And so I went to a very specific town here, or part of town here in Nepal. And I just kind of sensed out which direction I needed to go. And I did have on my list 3 places that kept popping up in my visions as places I needed to visit, but I decided which one to go to first, depending on the messages that I received. So the first one, I had gone to aerial yoga, which ended up being private yoga, which I had asked another studio about private yoga. And then all of a sudden I just manifested this amazing place, and it was only me. And then they wanted to show me something. It was like a building next door, because we were talking about some of the retreats and things like that. And, before I did anything, before I was like asking questions, I was reading their energy, I was sensing their energy, and I could hear that there was something important that I needed to see, follow, know about. So that is why I said yes to that instance. But if I was someone who was just gung-ho on synchronicities, like I'm just going to have fun and just be clueless, I would probably end up in trouble, which is what has happened to me before, which is why I perfected my gifts and why I teach people how to do it. And so I ended up seeing this center, where they also have housing for retreats, because I also lead retreats. And then I immediately felt this energy. It was like, done. I was like, okay, this is done. So I start walking out towards the door, and they're like, oh, I want to show you. And I was like, no, I have your information. I will contact you when I need you. And so they said, okay. We said namaste, and I like stood there for a second, and then I was like, okay, I need to go right. So I went right. And then I took maybe 3 to 4 steps, and then I hear beep, beep, beep behind me, and this really big, burly, like darker skinned man with a very thick African accent comes up and starts talking. And then we start chit-chatting, and then we start speaking in French, and we start doing all these things. I'm reading his energy, and I was like, oh, he has ancestors all over him, right? And I was like, you are very safe. And I could sense my ancestors as well. And then for anybody who doesn't know me or is new here, when I started my business and a lot of my advocacy work, and when I got on TV, I was advocating for justice, generational centers in the US, and also I was advocating for the Congo. And he was from the Congo. And I just started laughing, and we had a bunch of conversations, and then he offered to give me a free ride across town, because I was like, oh, it's a 15-minute walk the minute I started walking. And then he was like, I must give you a ride. I can't leave unless I give you a ride. And I was like, okay. But I said yes to that because I was reading the energy. Again, if I was like ungrounded in love, or not understanding synchronicities, or not understanding how to read ancestors and things like that, I wouldn't have done it. Then I was walking around, and I had met someone else like after I'd done a little bit of shopping, and it was like the energy was so distorted. You could feel it in them, and the way they spoke. And so what the biggest difference was, and I will tell you, aside, if you're not good at picking up on someone's energy outside of your own ego, the biggest thing to pay attention to is that your ancestors will treat you like royalty. They will treat you like royalty. They're not going to send anybody or anyone to come harm you or to like be pushy. They send only respectful people. So that's like sign number 1. Like if you have someone come towards you and they are not respectful, they're not listening, they're not being supportive of your needs, it's not from the ancestors. It's not from the ancestors at all. And if you feel like you don't have the clarity, or if you feel like your emotions start to rise, that also is probably a cue from your intuition that something is off. So pay attention to that. And the other thing is, the people who come from your ancestors and from God are not going to disrespectfully touch your skin, right? That's like rule number 1. I've never met divine messengers or folks from my ancestors that ever wanted to like engage with me physically. Like they never ever will. And especially if they are there to help you, they're like destiny helpers. So pay attention to that. And the man that I had met towards the end, he immediately started grabbing my arm, and I was like, oh, no, no, no. And then I kept reading into his energy, and I was like, no. So pay attention to those types of things. I know it sounds like common sense, but when you're outside and you're very magnetic, or if you're a child of Oshun, or you're walking with God, you need to not just like make decisions all quickly, not just like walk off with someone. Like you still need to have boundaries. You still need to be able to say no. And if it seems too good to be true, as much as I'm like hesitant to say that because I do believe in miracles, pay attention to that. Like, which is why I always tell people to do your healing around your ego so that you learn how to recognize miracles. And when things are a trap, basically, right? Especially for folks who are traveling, because you're going to be out and about. People are going to sense your energy. You're already going to be highly magnetic. And so it's like you got to sift through all the things sometimes to get to the miracles. And sometimes you might even have folks who are testing your energy, right? Sometimes the universe will come in and bring people to see how discerning you are, because they want to know, it's like, are you just gonna like give away your time, your energy, your money that I gifted you, right, to all these different people, or are you going to be discerning and do the things that you said you would do, right? So I just wanted to make that video. Let me know if it was helpful below. I'm going to do my best to share some more examples. And if you need additional assistance, you can also follow my other channel called The Fairy Medicine Woman. I've had it for a really long time. It's all spirituality. I teach a lot on there, and I go live on there. And I also have an academy. So stay tuned. I'm going to be dropping some more videos, but wanted to share that with you all. I'm sending you lots of love, and I will talk to you later.